Just coming in from a little target practice with Old Faithful here. And this is a crime spotlight. So welcome. Welcome to this segment of the Fantastic Books Publishing's Mabel Crime Fiction Spotlight. I'm Walt Pilcher, author of The Accidental Spurt and Killing O'Caroline, the two novels in my Mark Fairley Mystery series. Recently somebody asked me, Walt, how do you decide which crimes to use in your books? Well, actually, I was a little surprised that Fantastic Books included my mystery novels in their crime fiction category, because I really don't think of myself as a crime fiction writer in the traditional sense. My books lean more toward parody and satire, and I think you'll see that here. But that in turn leads me to sort of shy away from your traditional crimes like murder and robbery and kidnapping or mayhem. Of course, I do have mayhem, but it's funny mayhem. I do have a lot of crimes in my novels. In fact, the more the merrier, but I like to keep things light, even though there are dire events and portents of mortal danger on the horizon, especially for my hero, Mark Fairley, the chronically unemployed, reluctant amateur detective. So my approach is to go for the absurd. Maybe my characters will die laughing, or my readers will. For example, I can tell you what the big crime is in The Accidental Spurt because it takes place in the prologue right up front, so there's no spoilers involved. One of my criminals, Jerry, is skulking around at midnight in the darkened research laboratory of Spurrt Nutritionals Company, looking for information he can sell to his mysterious employer. Jerry has a bad cold, he can't smell anything, and his cold medicine has made him thirsty. So let's join him. His flashlight casting a dim, wobbly glow, Jerry approached one of the sinks. Finding the faucet on it, he searched around with the flashlight for a glass and finally saw something on a nearby shelf that might do. A beaker, if he remembered right from chemistry class. He put the beaker under the faucet. The faucet stuck straight out and was pointy at the end. It didn't curve down like a regular faucet so you could get a glass under it, or a beaker. Could be some new design, he figured, especially since this lab must be up to date with only the newest and best equipment, considering who owned it. Carefully, he positioned the beaker, tilting it toward the faucet so it would fill up at least partially, and then turned the handle. Nothing came out. Well, there was a soft whooshing sound he could barely hear over the ringing from the congestion in his ears, but no water. He turned it off. Silence. Then on again. Soft swoosh. Must be air in the water line. He moved to another sink. Same kind of faucet, same problem. On, whoosh. Off, silence. No water. 2 dry sinks and another stifled sneeze later, he'd had enough. He hadn't found anything he thought his boss would be interested in, and it was time to get out before he got caught. Then he had another idea. I'll just leave all these faucets open. When the water comes back on, won't these people be surprised when they get their water bill? Ha! They can afford it. Serves them right. Rich SOBs. Well, the explosion and fire that destroyed the lab and killed Elliot Spurr later that night made national news. So what's the crime here? Trespassing, obviously, involuntary manslaughter, completely oblivious manslaughter, rank stupidity for sure. But watch out for these other heinous crimes in The Accidental Spurt. You got speeding, theft of a firearm, unlawful discharge of a firearm. What else? You got espionage, using a fake Chinese accent, and many more. So tell me those won't have you hanging on the edge of your seat. Clearly, I have a low regard for criminals and crime. Criminals are easy to make fun of, and my real police detective characters feel the same way. Here's how I describe Raleigh police detective Jake Kyle in The Accidental Spurt. Kyle was no stranger to the ways of getting criminals to reveal themselves. He'd rotated through several of the centralized detective units, including fraud and forgery, homicide, drugs, and vice. the gangs unit, and his favorite, criminal enterprise, where he currently served, and which he thought of as a beautiful oxymoron. If criminals applied themselves as much to legitimate enterprises as they did to their unlawful ones, they'd all have good paying jobs and be model citizens. Some of them might even be on the police force, he thought. Kyle's colleagues liked to call him McGruff the crime dog because he was relentless in his pursuit of criminals and was known as a case closer. Dogged was their word for him. He pretended to be offended by this, but secretly he thought it was a good thing. Take a bite out of crime. That was Jake Kyle. Now here's Kyle discussing two of the criminals with my protagonist, Mark Fairley. I like my criminals hard-boiled, mean and nasty and arrogant, even if a little shortchanged in the brains department. I like it when I can have some fun cracking them, knocking them off their tough guy horses. But these two guys are just idiots, especially Jerry. They're already cracked. Just unadulterated stupidity. No law against that, unfortunately, but they're such transparent dimwits. I'm surprised those pictures we took of them on our smartphones even came out. In Killing O'Carolan, the crime is strongly hinted at as early as the cover blurb. Someone is poisoning poets in Greensboro, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. Reluctant amateur detective Mark Fairley goes undercover in the arts community to learn whose muse has run amok and restore poetic justice to the city. Well, and oh, by the way, there's a fountain pen on the cover. I know it's hard to see, but there it is. So, poison pens? I don't know. Now here's Mark Fairley's take on Greensboro Police Detective Lieutenant Marshal Blue in Killing O'Carolan. Although I trusted Blue, I doubted he trusted me. We weren't partners, and our like-mindedness extended only to solving the case, a fondness for barbecue, and a passionate disdain for stupid criminals, plus a shared inability to appreciate rap music, but that never came into play. Now, here's a little more from Detective Blue in Killing O'Carolan, in which even though you get the poison pen hint up front, the central crime is actually so absurdly absurd as to be very absurd, and I can't reveal it here. But rest assured, you traditional readers of hard-boiled crime, it's also got unlawful discharge of a firearm, poisoning, vandalism, mugging, kidnapping, lying, plagiarism, inappropriate use of duct tape, and fake Irish accents, among other things. You'll be cringing in fictitious terror. Believe me, I know my crimes. Detective Blue speaks to Mark Fairley. Even though I'm in the criminal intelligence squad, Blue said, I don't think there is any such a thing as criminal intelligence. It's like what you call an OxyClean or something. Criminals are just a bunch of dumbass scumbags as far as I'm concerned. Well, I hope that answers the question. Absurd crimes, dumbass criminals. Find those and more in The Accidental Spurt and Killing O'Carolan. Thanks for watching, and now you need to go look for those books on Amazon. If you can't remember the titles, just search my name, Walt Pilcher, and you'll find them easily enough.